So Kentucky news is actually more Kentucky history, running through, or Louisville history. I'm actually running through some police brutality with the LMPD. And there's been numerous cases that have happened. And I've written a couple of them here. I just Googled real fast and found several of them. There's Michael Newby, a 19-year-old who got shot in the back. That happened in 2004, shot by Mackenzie Mattingly. The family settled for $250,000, which, you know, that's sort of a mixed message, because that's $250,000 for a person's life. Is that what a person's life is worth, $250,000? And if, you know, that's what the family had got, but it's also an admission of guilt. Why would they settle out for such a, you know, a pretty, compared to what the budget is, it's paltry, but it's a substantial amount. It's not, you know, that's not chump change. So why would they settle for such a huge amount if they were innocent? So Michael Newby in 2004, he was killed, 19-year-old, who was shot in the back by an undercover officer. So the police chief fired the officer. You also had Timothy Greer. There was a video that appeared with Timothy Greer getting beat up by 2, then 4 police officers, and they were just punching him in the head as hard as they could, and he didn't like to get punched in the head. So there was that video. There was also there's a story, Antoine Ursery. Antoine Ursery. He's a 21-year-old male who robbed a woman, and he shot 6 shots at the cops, and they shot back at him. But Antoine Ursery did not succumb to the bullets. He did not get shot like Michael Newby or Desmond Rudolph or Leon Brackens. He didn't die. He got away, you know. So that's just interesting. When you are a criminal doing criminal activities, you know, you get away. You know, Antoine Ursery, he shoots at the cops, and then he runs, and they can't catch him. They don't know where he's at. They got his name, but they don't know where he's at. He's on the lam. He's on the run. You know, maybe he's with John Robert Boone. So when they, you know, when the citizen fights for themselves, you know, when they fight against the police and they get away. Boy, when you're Leon Brackens is the most appalling case that I've come across in really anything. Worse than what happened to Leon Brackens was worse than what happened with Rodney King. Leon Brackens, in April of 2011, he got beat up by 4 police officers, 4 white males, on the intersection of Watterson and Breckenridge. And that's significant because the Watterson Expressway is a Ku Klux Klan, Confederate, murdered lots of black people at Fort Pillow person. And we're celebrating him in Louisville by putting his namesake on the expressway. And then Breckenridge also has Confederate a tradition that goes on with them. So you got the Breckenridge and Watterson, where they cross. It's on the Watterson Expressway, but it's where Breckenridge crosses. And you know, those are named after white supremacists, and 4 white supremacists looking like people. I don't know if race was a factor in it, but it was a skinny black old man. So 4 big, strong white males beat up a skinny little black male. And he did nothing wrong. He had no charges on him. He did exactly what the police officers would have wanted. Okay, he gets a ride from somebody, and he's in the car, and he calls the 911 call in. So you have his voice on the 911 operator, and he's the one saying, "Hey, I'm being kidnapped. Someone help. She's crazy. I don't know what's going on." And he even says to her, "You're going to get us killed." And so he's the one that calls the 911 dispatch, and then when they're chasing the vehicle he was in, that he was a kidnapped victim, right? So Leon Brackens was a kidnapped victim inside this van or SUV that was driving, and when finally the car pulls over, I think it was a lady that was driving, when the lady pulls over, he's got his hands up, and he's got a seatbelt on. And the police, you see this on the dash cam, they pull his little skinny old feeble body out, They unhook the seatbelt, they take his old feeble body out, they put him down on the ground, and they all just start beating on him, right? Just having a good old time, just hitting people. Yeehaw! We're the fucking LMPD. We just go around punching little old feeble black men, and we think we're so powerful. We're helping the public to protect and serve. It's bullshit. Leon Brackens did not pose any threat to the officers. Leon Brackens did not. He did everything right, and the officers did everything wrong. He called the police because he thought the police would have been to protect and serve him, but clearly the police are out here to victimize the public. They didn't care that he was the one that was being victimized. They didn't care he was the one that was kidnapped. They didn't even care that his hands were up, that he was a skinny old man, and that he had a seatbelt on. They didn't care about any of that stuff. They took him out, and they just kept on punching his body. He's got health issues. He's got sickle cell anemia. After this incident, he's in the hospital for 8 months. He's confined to a wheelchair. He can't even operate. And then, eventually, in 2012, he dies. He succumbs to his wounds, and he dies. So the LMPD murders this man, and there's been no apology. Robert White just dropped out, and now you have Steve Conrad that's in there. So Steve Conrad is the chief of Louisville Police right now. And Robert White was beforehand, I want to say in 2008, that Steve Conrad's been around for a while. So Steve Conrad has not come out and publicly apologized for Leon Brackens. In fact, none of these cases has anybody actually stood out in front of and said, you know, we messed up and we are still the police and we still care, so we're going to do what's right. Compare this case, Leon Brackens, to the Desmond Rudolph case. So in May 1999, Desmond Rudolph was shot by 2 LMPD officers, 22 shots. I even heard 5 shots in his head. Why you got to shoot somebody 5 times, right? So they shoot Desmond Rudolph, and the officers didn't get acquitted. It was, you know, it was trying times, right? It was there was a lot of questions with this case. They didn't convict the LMPD officers, but later on, the chief of police, Gene Sherrard, he exonerates them. He gives them medals and gives them honors and gives them this big celebration. And when he gives them this celebration, the mayor, Dave Armstrong, thought it was very insensitive. You know, there's questions about what had happened with the conduct, and by not charging them and instead giving them medals and ribbons and awards, it seemed like they were celebrating murderers, which they were, and that was insensitive. That's why Gene Sherrard got fired, and when he got fired, the LMPD pulled a military coup d'etat on the town, and they marched. They marched on the streets, and they protested the firing. So, you know, that's wonderful. It reminds me of 1975 when the black kids was going to be bussed into the white schools, and all the white people was out on the streets, right? They just hated anything, you know, they hated integration, I guess, that much. The Ku Klux Klan was out there on the street. So that's the image I see. I see the LMPD. I see the exact same image with them. And so, you know, the Desmond Rudolph gets shot. The chief of police was fired. So that's a good mark for Mayor Dave Armstrong. Mayor Dave Armstrong fired him in March of 2000. So Mayor Dave Armstrong fires Gene Sherrard. And so that was a good thing. It shows that, you know, there was some accountability to the atrocities that happened. Somebody got fired. When Leon Brackens got beat up and killed, there's been very little talk about it, very little national outrage, as well as, you know, it's a clear-cut case. Leon Brackens did nothing. He did everything right, and the police did everything wrong. And but the police, sometimes they don't even care. It's not even about disrespect. Sometimes it's just about we're the police state. We can do whatever we want to do. So Leon Brackens, nobody's apologized for him. Nobody's been fired because of him. He's dead, but the family of Leon Brackens is still carrying his case out. And Leon Brackens wanted justice, and that's what the families, the victim's family also wants too. They want justice, and he should get justice. They murdered him. They killed him. The LMPD killed Leon Brackens, and Steve Conrad pretends that didn't happen. He hasn't apologized for it, and he hasn't said nothing about it. So not only, okay, you have that, you got this several off-duty cops who want to start a fight. Charles Wheeler's just starting hitting dude, you know, at a bar because he shows a badge when he was off duty and expected that badge to mean something. Well, you're off duty unless there's a crime. You can't intervene at all. You know, you can't just say I'm a cop and you gotta listen to me because you're off duty. You're not. You don't have the power of the state when you're off duty. So that's what happened. Charles Wheeler flashes the badge. The guy didn't care, and then he just starts beating dude up. And when he beat dude up, you know, beat him up pretty bad. And then dude tried to sue him, and he didn't get anywhere with it. So off-duty cops are allowed to hit you for no apparent reason, just out of nowhere. Off-duty cops are allowed to start striking you. You also have Chauncey Carthan. He was an off-duty cop, and he was drunk. And actually, there's a court case here that I was going to read more into it. I just want to mention also Lieutenant Colonel Settle. In January 2012 of last year, he was arrested as a homeless panhandler, but he sued and got for wrongful detainment since he was not a homeless panhandler, and the LMPD settled out of court. So there's another, the Lieutenant Colonel Settle. He hasn't been given a public apology. Charles Wheeler's hitting people. Chauncey Carthan's just, drunkenly pulling out his badge and saying, I'm the police and I can do as I want at 24th and Chestnut. Right? And then you have Michael von Allman. He was put in the prisons for 11 years for rape. And it turns out it wasn't true. So he was wrongfully detained for 11 years. Michael von Allman put in prison for 11 years. They stole 11 years of this man's life over some bullshit. Zachary Hoagland, he was a victim. The cop was James Conley, and he hit Zachary Hoagland twice with a mag light, with his flashlight. Boom, boom, hit him in the head, right? Because the cops are allowed to assault. They're allowed to assault anybody they want. Boom, 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 boom. And that's what they do. They assault people, right? And they have a badge, so they're allowed to assault anybody. So actually, when these off-duty cops are showing the badge, you could, call the police for that. That's terroristic threatening. When you're off-duty and you're flashing a badge, like what? What's that supposed to mean? Mean you're going to hurt me? If we continue this argument, if this argument continues, you're going to start using violence against me? Is that why you flashed? Is that why Chauncey Carthan flashed his badge off duty and Charles Wheeler flashed his badge off duty? Just to show people, that, hey, I'm a cop and I'm allowed to do as I please, and if you keep this argument up, I'm going to hurt you, and there will be force. That's how you win an argument, and that's ridiculous. That's not even human. That's barbaric. But I mean, when they flash it, that's terroristic threatening. They flash the badge, they saying they're going to do harm to you. We're going to act like the police, and we're going to hurt you. So they set the example. The police officers, by their conduct, set the example on how we're supposed to act. I would like a community policing system where the police officers actually know us, and they come around and they talk to us, and we feel comfortable with them. We want them in our neighborhood so we feel protected. They don't just come around to hurt people, but they come around maybe to, ask how your mother is doing. Maybe they could plant a flower, maybe help plant a tree, maybe play some basketball with the neighborhood kids. If there's no violent things happening, there's no reason to just drive around looking for a fight, which, many times it seems like that's all they're doing is just looking for a fight. They're looking for trouble. And when you're looking for trouble, it's not hard to find. Especially if you're willing to instigate it, right? So, they're off duty, they're flashing their badge, it's terroristic threatening, and there's also malicious prosecution. Once they beat you up, they'll throw 50 charges on you just to hope that one of them sticks. And the whole system is so wrong. Then you go to court, and if you don't have a lawyer, the judge, they just want to, like cattle herds, they just want to kind of get you in. They tell you your rights, but they don't want you to really enforce them or stand up for yourself, or they don't even really know about the case. They don't want to hear your story or their story. They want to have to figure out who's got better evidence. They'd rather you just say you're guilty and, get some high prosecution rates. So, the whole system's kind of gone. It is weird that they had a coup d'etat, right? There's a coup d'etat. Let's see. There's a Detective Chauncey Carthan in court on charges for off-duty shooting. So, Louisville, Kentucky is published September 3rd, 2013. So this happened last month. Okay, a Louisville Metro narcotics detective, maybe Viper Squad narcotics, he's pleaded not guilty to a string of charges after he was indicted in connection with a shooting last year that happened while he was off duty. Detective Chauncey Carthan appeared before a judge on charges of DUI, wanton endangerment, and official misconduct. Wanton endangerment is a felony. Detective Chauncey Carthan is accused of shooting Ishmael Gough, G-O-U-G-H, near the intersection of 24th and Chestnut last September. Police said Carthan was followed Gough for several blocks before both men pulled to the side of the road and got out of their cars. Gough said Carthan, who was in plain clothes, unmarked car, already had his gun drawn. Police said Carthan identified as an officer, but Gough did not comply, and that's when Carthan shot Gough. It's bullshit.